Something like that would not surprise me to see him on, and it will be the Udyr first pick here, picking it away from Pioshik, who can still go into a Nidalee if he wants to. He can go into his Lilia. All of those are fine, but they're not quite the level of the Udyr.
Yeah, Lilia a little bit more comfortable to pick with the with the Hecarim on the bench. So likely to be locked away here. We'll see where DRX go with the rest of their lanes. Gnar is still up, and something that, you know, Summit is very, very good at. Kingen also one of our better Gnar players. And look, I'm not a huge fan of blind pick Gnar, but we saw what Canna did on it in our first series, and it does work with the Lilia quite effectively. See where they go. As bottom lane could also be part of the focus. None of our big carries have actually been locked in, and Senna is up actually. I would very much like a Senna pick here, but instead, the Tristana is going to be considered, and Bao going to take that one away. Rel or Alistair, both of them going to be a possibility to be locked in last here for DRX in our first round of picks.
And I wonder what effort Prince are going to go for here, because you can go for the Kalista and the Alistair, right? You pick away a really strong offensive carry or offensive support that synergizes super well, and you have a strong bot lane 2v2 to try and kind of match. However, this is more in line with what they normally do, which would be a very comfortable pick for Prince. But picking Ezreal into Tristana means you basically saying, we're not going to have lane pressure, we're not going to have prio. So that means that Liiv Sandbox need to find a way to get priority solo lanes for both Fate and Summit. Can they do that? Maybe if they go for like the blind pick Gnar hit, and then DRX doesn't pick the counter pick, you ban away a couple of counters, and then you got a top lane matchup on lockdown, and then you kind of go from there. But the problem is that they're blue side, right? And that makes it a lot easier for DRX to respond with counter lanes. And if you don't have any priority there,
King and just do it.
It's not good.
Oh, I would have loved it. I mean, Jace is fantastic as well, and that's what Kingan's going to decide to do. You already stated that if you pick the Gnar right there, blind pick Gnar, definitely punishable, something that we were talking about, and the Jace is a huge option into it. And also, Kingen has been so good at destroying Gnar. That has been, I think, his biggest strength throughout the LCK. He's just been very good at saying no to the orange buff.
Not only that, he also plays it very well, which is...
Yeah, right.
Like, he controls the pick to an extent where he's both able to play as it and win, and then also play against it and win. And Liiv Sandbox, they got their work cut out for them. And do not forget, in that series that we saw on Friday, yes, they crumbled, and I think the draft wouldn't have necessarily mattered a lot, but it's also something that was, I think, justifiably criticized back then, that they're rigid, that they really adhere to what they think is strong. This Gnar was a high priority pick in that series as well, and it backfired twice in a row. And of course, just because a pick loses doesn't mean it's bad, but if it becomes a pattern and if we consistently see these punishers come out, then you do need to start reevaluating, especially when I think that as Liiv Sandbox, you can just lock in your support there, be decently safe, and then maybe you are able to get a counter pick for your top lane, and maybe DRX actually leave that open, right? Or maybe they go for the Gnar, maybe they go for something else blind like a Cyan, and go from there.
Well, Orianna going to be taken away from Solka. Solka, another one of these players that does like to augment the rest of his team. Two up-and-coming mid laners actually in this series, as the Victor is tried and true, and he's going to be locked away. It's going to mean a lot of magic damage coming out of the mid lane, but we saw, you know, T1 Lilia Victor worked out relatively well in their last match. That being said, a different look here, and I do like the fact that they have a lot of magic damage and a lot of physical damage, and we'll see where Becca goes as he counterpicks the support on the bottom side of the map. Fate, very standard when it comes to the mid lane in this Syndra pick, but does feel a little bit old-fashioned these days.
I mentioned it, right? It's what they like. Liiv Sandbox, they stick to their guns, and perhaps to a fault here, as the Rel, it's okay.
Don't know whether I like it that much with an Ezreal.
Yeah, I like the Alistair more. I think that the problem with the Rel is that outside of a flash engage, you actually will lack reliable engage.
Oh, this is even better. Brad Ezreal, that's actually some lane power.
That's actually, I agree, that's actually really, really good. I think the downside of Bard is that picking him blind is a big risk, as he is counterable. And by going for the Alistair, you do provide your team something which you don't have, which is actual hard engage, right? Like otherwise it would be an Udyr or a Scatter the Weak, and then or an Offlacker. That's basically it. Yep. Alistair means that, as opposed to the Rel, which is now not really pickable anymore because it is a nice counter matchup that you get there. Is able to consistently go in even if he doesn't have flash, just throw the headbutt pulverize combo. And you need that against DRX because this is basically a poke and then all-in new comp from DRX, which we've seen him play to a devastating extent before. And it's something where I think we put question marks in it in draft, like, well, this is not a tanky top laner, right? It's not a traditional front to back. Can they actually do it? And then they smashed it out of the park. And if I see this setup, you're going to have Prio on bot side. You're going to have Prio in top lane. Pioshik is going to have free game anywhere outside the early game, because I think that's where Fade has a little bit of an edge. But Fade is not the punishing type. I like this early draft here from DRX.
Yep, and also this is extreme comfort for Solka as well. He does very much like the Victor. This guy just likes control mages in general. And Pioshik, when it comes to tearing apart an opponent jungler, it makes it better when he's on the champion that he literally birthed into the LCK. In the Udyr, right? Like, I think Pioshik should be able to play around Croco quite effectively, especially with the amount of lane priority that they do have. But certainly two drafts that we're not looking at when it comes to like 5v5 and things like this. These are both drafts that are trying to get themselves advantages around this map early, and I think in that sense, DRX are ahead.
The one thing that you have as late game inevitability on the side of Liiv Sandbox is that Ezreal, where I don't think late game anyone should be able to get on him unless Bao finds an angle or Becca like hits a solar flare, which should never ever happen.
Yeah.
Prince can basically win the game single-handedly later in the game, but that is so far off, and I think this mid-game spike that DRX is going to have is going to be absolutely monumental. The problem is, can they actually do this? Because this team has struggled time and time again with actually finding these early game leads, especially in round 2.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see how it goes. Onto the Rift here for game number 1. Liiv Sandbox up against DRX. King in with one of the old coolest Jace skins. It's been a while since we've seen that one. As the Korean cast having a very good time. Kind of want to know what the joke was. Maybe production can let us know at some point. But
no one's laughing here.
No,
not funny at all.
I just not really. I missed the joke. If there was one, I missed it.
Maybe we had a joke.
Yeah. Now I'm just like actually paying more attention. I'm like trying to listen. Like, is Sunke just being hilarious again? I think he must be.
Odds are.
Yeah. I think we've just caused a whole lot of people to switch over to the Korean broadcast. Hopefully they didn't miss the joke. Because we have a look at some of the stats here, certainly not looking great for Liiv Sandbox, who are, you know, a team that could potentially be 9th place at the end of this series.
I said earlier, I think Liiv Sandbox, they have potential. And potential is really overused, but we see it in their games. This is a team of a player like Croco, who really doesn't have that much in terms of experience, but still was able to really get a lot done throughout this split. Oh, that's not good win rates on the Tristana and the
No.
but Tristana has become more popular recently, and recently DRX have looked worse. And I'm going to be looking towards that top side, which, as we can see here, even though it's not as favored as it might otherwise be, or as one might expect, I can guarantee you that the laning phase is going to be very one-sided. It's more about what happens afterwards that's a problem for a lot of teams. And DRX, as I said before, with this composition, basically has 2 modes. It's either poke, or it's hard engage with Leona and then dive in with the Lilia, the Jace, and the Tristana. And up until that point, you're just looking to hit some lasers, hit some shock blasts, and it is something that DRX has shown already that they can play. Becca getting zoned off a little bit of the early wave, but the same is the case for Summit.
Yeah, Summit not going to be having a great time here towards the top side, as the boomerangs are at least connecting. But that's not what this is about, right? This is about having the lane in exactly the position that it's in, as there's a Zenith blade. Pretty good one. Svek is going to turn around and just stop any follow-up from effort. Actually, a really nice trade there for DRX bottom side.
A couple of creepies missed there by Bao. Well, it's a good health trade. It does cost him a little bit of resources. The real problem is that the Ezreal Alistar will just not be able to match the raw damage output that the Tristana and the Leona can get against you in an all-in, so they're kind of relying on Croco, who is buffing towards top side. So is Pioshik, but the Prio in mid and top lane means that I don't think that Croco can actually go for the crab here. Vision is secured as well, and with Fate's health bar, Summit going to be stuck underneath the turret again. I don't actually think that they can do this. Oh!
Solka actually laning pretty well, has missed a few creeps just because he's been attempting to harass as much as possible, as Croco does take the top scuttle. Bottom one might be contested, but Pioshik's a long way away from this.
Yeah, that's actually
back.
really
Not going to be interrupted, but Croco will be able to head over and get this double scuttle.
Yeah, I figured with the priority they would be able to go for it, but they seemingly don't want to take the risk, and that's a double scuttle being given away with priority on your top side. I don't really think that was necessary, but maybe they don't want to risk it. The Udyr can really overpower a lot of other picks if he does find the lead in the early game. Liiv Sandbox, though, they are the kings of early game. It might have looked really bad last series when they were not really playing like themselves. However, this series, very much not the case. Looking much more in control. And Pioshik, this invade, we've seen this backfire time and time again. He's going to get found out here.
I mean, it was so obvious that Croco was going to be here as well, as Croco's just running after him. Pioshik gets the smite off, but immediately the follow flash is going to be there. And yes, I mean, Pioshik should be able to kite this one relatively well with phase rush, as well as just being Lilia. So he does make it out, but still, trade of flashes, is that something that you're really that psyched about? And he's also not able to take the Krog camp fully away.
And the main issue there, because I think the flash for flash is fine. I think Udyr is more reliant on the flash than Lilia is. But the main problem is that now you've traded a lot of health. And this early game from Liiv Sandbox is just too much.
Yeah, flash out once again. Croco's just going around stealing flashes everywhere.
He's not done?
Nope. May as well continue. Good control there as well as Pioshik realizes that he was not invited to this area of the map. Even the boomerang's going to connect there, so Zenith Blade here on the bottom side. Good cleanse there from Prince. Now trying to turn this one back. Becca taking a lot of damage now that the Eclipse and the Aftershock are running out. DRX not able to find any all-in or anything like that. They do get the cleanse at least out of Prince.
Really key interruption there by Effort meant that Bao couldn't keep going. He couldn't get the rocket jump damage off, and because of that, Prince was able to favorably trade. Good lane control by Summit as well, because we talk about how this Jace is supposed to have an early edge. But what actually happened was Summit were able to slow push a huge wave into the turret, which synergized with Croco going for that invade. Fade as well had Prio on the mid lane. And this is a problem because getting behind early in this matchup exponentially creates issues for Lilia down the line. Pioshik is currently level 4, right? Like he's 11 CS behind. He was not able to get any scuttles. His invade failed. Then his top side was completely cleared out by Udyr. Now he's waiting for his bot side camps to spawn. If he also doesn't get this next grab, he's going to be stuck as a level 4 Lilia. And from a player that really was known for carrying his team in the early days, we can see the stark difference between DRX at the beginning of the split and right now, because this is not looking like the same team.
No. And Pioshik once again going to be discovered by Croco, and look at him, he's just running, the bear man, just running so fast, stealing things away. Pioshik might be able to contest this, but there's the flash headbutt Volve. As Pioshik gets exhausted, it looks like he's okay for now, as Bao just going to jump on top of the cow. Croco also in trouble now, as I didn't mean to rhyme everything, but sometimes these things happen. Flash into the brush, Croco in trouble, and Bao is back in this game. Okay, that's what we needed to do for DRX. Just curse them, and they'll be right back in the game.
My magic is strong today, Atlas. I'm kind of perplexed at how consistently this has been happening, because what we saw there was Liiv Sandbox. I like that you go for the Rift Herald play, or the Rift Scuttler play rather. I think that's fine, because denying that from Pioshik actually means a lot to you. And you do have a really strong early game, but you need to be all on the same page. And what happens instead is Effort flashes hard engages on the Pioshik, which the idea makes sense because he doesn't have flash. But then there needs to be damage. There was no damage, and instead now you're knee-deep into a Tristana that has a explosive shot on you and is stacking it really, really quickly. Gold on the 2 hardest scaling carries on the side of DRX. That's a rough one.
Yeah, that certainly is. Solka getting that kill is also huge, just because of, you know, Fate having a fair bit of lane control at the beginning of this game. That is likely going to change. As here on the top side, first serrated Dirk, certainly a big moment. For the Jace, does have that one now completed. As we have a look at this one more time, and it looked cool. You know, Effort just popping out of the brush, getting himself a bit of a headbutt pole onto Pioshik, but it's just not enough, right?
And this is also... Oh.
And Solka's dead in the mid lane. That's going to be Croco grabbing that kill.
Flash used by Fate there, so I imagine it was a flash scatter that set up that play. Croco just following up and leaving it at that. But what we saw there is a lack of respect for the priority the DRX had on the bot side, because Prince was roaming as well, but it's Tristana this early on in the game. If she gets a priority on the roam and she gets a full, fully stacked play of, you just lose. right? And here we see it again. We were interrupted very rudely last time.
Yes, by the action.
By the action that was happening on the other end of the map. And now you need to like funnel into a choke point, which you can't really do whatsoever with the health bars that you have. That flash from Bao, I don't really think it's necessary. I think one Mystic shot does not really do that much.
I think he was mainly just trying to get vision on Udyr so that he didn't run away. And yeah, look, that's a way to do it.
Yeah. Interesting.
Well, now there's a Nara into the wall. Doesn't quite get the stun, but it looks like they will have the damage. Kingin gonna flash away as Pyosik. Not a lot that he can do. Does put them to sleep, but no, Summit actually going to be okay. Back to Mini Nara at exactly the right time. That's the hyper proc you were looking for. As we've seen Jaces destroy this matchup. Kingin's done it before, but Summit is something else this round.
Summit and Croco. This is the Summit and Croco we wanted to see last game.
Yeah, where were they when it meant something?
I mean, they were. I feel like it's overused, but I legitimately think that in that case, it was just the pressure.
Yeah.
It was just the knowledge that we have our power in our own hands. We have our fate in our own hands, ironically, because their mid lane is fate, which wasn't actually the problem. It was specifically Summit and Croco. And then you go back, and this is why we were excited about this team, right? This is why we want to see Liiv Sandbox go for these proactive early game draft. This is why we expected them to actually make it to playoffs, even though the odds were not necessarily in their favor. And I'm loving what Summon and Croco are serving, man. That's a killer stew that they got going right there. Whereas DRX, the overforcing that they're trying to do on top side here doesn't make sense because your bot side is winning. Like you have a fed Tristana, reasonably far at least, with a Leona for setup.
Yeah, and it's all going fine. You can see they're able to grab a couple of plates down there as we have a look at this one more time. This is just largely Kingin out of position, but Pyosik, he'd started off the Rift Herald, and Croco just wanders his way in. That level advantage still so important.
And this is a problem that we've seen from DRX again, and it is somewhat reminiscent of, you know, the tilting player in solo queue, where what happens is you want to go for the objective, but you need the right setup. And I feel like this is the third or fourth time in a row where we've seen Pyosik go for an objective and then to get punished. This happened in the last series as well, where you can't just go and start that off. You need to at least have the vision set up. You need to have the priority. You need to have the roam. As we saw there, Efford, even if that topside play had gone well, Efford had prior on the roam. He would have been able to assist there the rest of his team and maybe set up another play. God.
Okay. I guess Shelly's coming. She's gonna take the long way around, but she'll make it. As Kingin, he's got a long walk to get out of this one. Yep, out of the brush comes the scary shellfish. It's a really cute way of, you know, making sure that you do get that charge. They crash the wave just in time. Becca from around the corner, Moby boots in hand, but not able to get too much. And yeah, I mean, sometimes you get punished for blind picking the Gnar. Other times, you use the Gnar to win in the counter matchup. Or the chosen matchup into the Gnar. I guess you can't really call it a straight up counter, but still, this is a matchup that we do see Jace winning the majority of the time.
It's not a straight up counter, but it's not a matchup that's supposed to go this way.
Yeah.
I can assure you. And it's not even that Croco necessarily paid an insane amount of money to or attention towards the top side, right? Yes, he made a play, but it wasn't like that was his only position where he was paying attention. Summit and Croco are pretty nuts. That is really, really good. And this is actually make the last series that we saw from him even like sadder.
Yeah, I know.
Like non-ironically, I'm super impressed by this team every time that they're able to keep it together. And this is one of the very few lineups I'm like, I hope they stay together. I hope we get to see this exact lineup. I hope they are able to like polish, to develop themselves into the spring split, because I think it's good if we have teams that have this strong an early game that are consistently able to outlane their opponents, to put pressure, and not just play the classic weak side top laner, utility or power shoving mid, and a powerful bot lane into farming your jungle and going from there. Because this style of aggression, it keeps us honest.
Yeah, but also like what a good early game indicates is that you all are good players.
Yeah.
But a poor late game means that you haven't quite got the communication, coordination, and macro and that sort of stuff. But that can be taught. Like, a lot of just being ridiculous in lane is something that is talent-based. But a lot of the macro play and the communication, all this sort of stuff, that's learned. And this is something that they can certainly put together the longer they remain as a squad. Similar thing can be said for DRX. but their laning phase isn't necessarily quite as strong. But we'll see. See exactly what happens. We are getting ahead of ourselves just a little bit. We need to finish off the spring season. Is Bao looking to finish off this bottom outer turret?
It's definitely not over, right? It's not a done and dusted case. I think the DRX comp, even though they're playing from behind, still has some really solid late game win conditions in Solka and Bao, which with Kingen not being very relevant and Pioshik falling behind, I don't think that is going to be as easy as it otherwise will be. But Atristana in a nice skirmish where she gets a couple of resets can still win the game. People funnel into a Victor. Once he hits 2 free items, you can still win the game. So it's possible for DRX. But what's worrying me here more, Atlas, is that even though DRX didn't always have the greatest early game, it looked like they had faith in their own play. And I'm starting to... It feels like they don't have that anymore. And that was the magic. That's what got them all these wins. Even when they fell behind, you were always like, oh, there's going to be a moment.
Yeah.
They're going to grab it. And it just doesn't feel like the same team at the moment. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them just kind of bleed out of this game with Liiv Sandbox just finding more and more of these super aggressive plays, big plays coming out from like a Summit or a Prince, who we've not really talked about because he hasn't really done anything this entire game. But if that Ezreal just hits 2 free items, if he gets his Mana Mune and the Surreal does Grudge, it's not going to be fun to play into.
Nope, it certainly isn't. They do need to get there. Ezreal's an interesting champion now. It was always so easy to say 2-item power spike, but now it feels a little bit like he needs to get closer to 3. That being said, Bao's still going to be very strong once his Zeal item choice is completed, likely the Phantom Dancer. And the gold lead is, 1.2, sorry, 1.4, something like that. It's not a big deal. 1.6 actually was where it was 20 seconds ago. And
solid math.
Yeah, when it comes to scaling and things like that, I don't necessarily think that there is a clear winner. So it's going to be interesting to see how these later skirmishes are going to go, just with the general DRX power of finding late game skirmishes.
They haven't found that ward there, and Summit has teleport available. I hope they sweep that one out. Otherwise, they might be in for a rough one, although they are currently standing on top of the...
The thing that I'm interested in is whether or not we're going to continue the embargo on Ocean Drakes. We have not seen one so far today.
It's going to be Cloud.
It'll likely be a Cloud Soul, that's what I'm thinking. So I think that's a good sign. As Becca, looking for the Zenith Blade, does not find it. See this Mountain Drake likely to show us whether or not that Cloud Soul is indeed going to be coming.
Possible flank from Summit necessary. If you just let the DRX poke for free,
it'll
be a rough one for Liiv Sandbox.
He's also getting poked out. Doesn't have much of a Nahbar. As in goes Becca, flashes away immediately as now Effort gets amongst it. It is going to be the Ocean Soul as the Solar Flare connects onto Effort as well. It's a big old sleep as Kingen looking for Summit off towards the side, just keeping him busy, but he's just going to get solo killed off towards the edge. And Liiv Sandbox actually win the ensuing 4v4 off to the other side. And Bao realizes he has no real option as they were waiting to deliver him back into the pit. And this one should go over to Prince pretty comfortably. That was adorable to Croco. Can you write that one down on the POG selection sheet? I'm going to need that one there just because that was so cute.
I want to see. That's going to be the Matt movie. That right there.
That's the play of the play of the day. Play of the day right there.
Oh, I'm glad that Croco is like actually still paying attention and not stuck in the shot, because otherwise Bao gets an auto and then a reset and then it's
I think he was waiting there because he knew exactly what was going to happen. I don't know. That's what it felt like because he was pressing the button as soon as the rocket jump happened. Let's hopefully see it in the replay.
And here you see the initial poke that comes out is actually considerable because there's no lead. It's not as big as it otherwise wants to be. An Effort. These team fights of them have been so good. He frees up space for Croco and then they can get in. Now the problem here is that the two people that are getting slapped are the tanks and the front line, and that means that Fade and Prince can just freely do damage and see the amount of threat that they're still able to put up. Meaning that all of this is going on, Summon is just like, this is free.
He's just chilling, he's just waiting.
No, you're right.
Bye.
You were right. I thought he was backing, but he was just standing there like, haha.
No, he's like, I got this. You thought that I just had a bear slap. No. He's got all the season.
야, 잡아. 야, 배달했어. 치아나 잡으라고 저거. 배달해줬잖아, 내가. 나 이거 전력까지 바로.
Croco knows. Don't worry.
He's, according to Jason, it was a special delivery
Yeah.
coming here.
Coming to you. Pick that one up, Prince. This is delicious. And that is going to put the 1 in his 1-0-2 as he is now set up in that mid lane. And look, we shouldn't be talking about, you know, the game and whether or not it is over or not. However, this is a fantastic beginning for Liiv Sandbox. Let's hope they don't have that classic Liiv Sandbox throw and do get to finish off their season on their own terms.
The big difference, though, is that unlike a team like Afrika, which up until their final games, where they had no pressure and were just stomping people for some unknown reason,
Yep.
they actually have not had like swings that were as bad when the entire map was. It was specifically because Prince and Affid were often losing lane to the point where it was a question of who can carry harder, top side or bot side. And then
True.
with Sandbox, Summon had to like force something in the sideline. He tried to apply pressure, and then he would get killed. The problem with this new and improved Liiv Sandbox, which unfortunately we didn't get to see in the game when it actually mattered, as we can't keep pointing out because it's just so sad. Because look at how good they look. The entire team is working together very well. We see, yes, Summon and Croco are smurfing, but they've been throughout a big part of the split. But the reason why these teams couldn't get wins is because they couldn't get it together. And they are playing together. They're playing the team fights really well. They find multiple angles. Effort's team fighting has been stellar. Prince, I think, can't be allowed to play Ezreal anymore because it's just getting to the point where, like, I guess he just...
I mean, if you're the opposition, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's rough. But also, like, Ezreal suits their composition so beautifully. It's similar to how KT play, right? They also like to pick up the Ezreal, play that one out, and it's because if you're playing through a top side that wants to hard carry and wants to dive and actually get the damage down, then you need a self-sufficient AD carry that's able to, you know, survive. And Ezreal is exactly that.
It's even something that Dom and Kia did in their 2020 run, where they,
straight up, yeah.
where they loved the Jhin and the Ezreal and the Senna. Of course, Senna needs a little bit more support, but as all picks, they don't necessarily need as much attention, with Beryl just roaming around freely around the map. And that's one of the things that we called effort on for, which he was doing super well, even when the team was struggling. And I'm starting to feel like we're getting to a gold advantage where even if comp-wise it might be a little bit rough as Croco, that's a brush, by the way. It's a bit of a spectator buck. He's standing in a brush, but he's also standing in a ward, so it's quite the
Sometimes you want to
situation.
be a ward, you know, and
he is Udyr.
Or he's definitely not, or whatever. I don't know whether we're doing the joke or not.
Are we?
No,
Up to you.
Yeah, we've done it a few times. As Bao just doing his very best to try and keep up with Prince, who does have his Manamune completed. It's just getting a little bit scary here for DRX. Is now summoned as Meganar, looks for the wallop, finds it. They're just going to be tagged by an E. Not too much more going to come of it.
It's a big problem when your poke composition is getting outpoked. Yeah, that's not good, because yes, DRX's comp can go in hard, but this comp excels when it finds a lead, it goes in with a bit of poke from the Jace and from the Victor, and then once you see your opening, you hit your bowling ball, or Becca sees a good angle for a solo flat, then you go in, then you make the play. But instead, you're behind, this poke does nothing, because this is not King, and as we've seen him before, this is King playing from a 30 CS and a 2-kill deficit. His shock blasts are not very impressive, they're not very accelerated, they're more like medium-paced shock blasts, which are not great. And now Liiv Sandbox can take anything on the map.
Continuing to do so. Wards cleared out here by the Walking Ward himself, but Croco's been a little bit more than that so far this game on this Udyr. 5,000 gold the lead. Fate just chilling out on his favorite Syndra, getting work done. I can see, I can feel, you know, Gorilla backstage being like, yes, it's my buddy Fate, still playing so well. You can see Yamato somewhere in Europe just saying, I knew that this player was going to be good. I knew that this team had something. Unfortunately, it's not enough in the spring season to get them towards playoffs. There is a lot of potential here, and I hate that word. Something that's triggered me a lot, something that you said already today about this squad, but you sort of have to, right?
In this case, I think this is, I don't know about this one.
All right, got a lot of circles coming down here. Solka's doing his best to run away. Croco doing now the same. As Fate, not really going to participate. He wants the red dots, and sometimes they're more important.
Tend to agree. The Liiv Sandbox is just a team where I think more than so with any other team, you're allowed to make the case that this team is better than the scoreline. Even taking into account the bad games, even taking into account the weak moments that they had. If you make the case that this team is better than KT, I think most people would agree with you. I don't necessarily want to say that they're better than DRX, but today they're definitely looking a lot stronger, right? And I agree. I hope we get to see this team stay together. I think Summon and Croco have some magic, and now the rest of the team is sharing in that. They're able to match super well. And the flip side of this is that DRX's struggles continue. This is not the same team.
Yeah, this is the worry, right? And Effort going to displace Becca. He tries to get back out again, but that's 4 people. There's no amount of tankiness that this Leona has that's going to allow her to survive that. And Liiv Sandbox are just finding all of the picks that they're looking for here in this mid-game, continuing to get further and further ahead.
What do you do? As DRX, the answer is unfortunately absolutely nothing. Look at the topside jungle. It is just lit up by Liiv Sandbox. They have all the vision necessary. And both the Gnar and the Ezreal are not easy to engage on. And here we get a problem with the DRX composition. Once your Pokemon becomes inconsequential...
Oh no. Effort finds him once again. Oh, not going to be in range of the trample though. It's a good sidestep. And, oh, it's getting close. Summit really wants to get that. Hop does not find the blind boomerang. And Kingen, I mean, he at least has the fear of God put in him, as that's a red buff steal from Croco.
Just the entire top side of the map is lit up, right, by Liiv Sandbox, and DRX is just kind of there. And now, as I was saying, your poke is inconsequential, which means you're relying on just your Leona. Like, that's your engage, that's... You needs to carry all the weight, and I don't think that she really can.
Well, Pyoshik's going to get smacked into a wall. The wall-up does come down, but now it is Summit's turn to get surrounded, and he's going to get popped. So the little orange balloon going to be said goodbye to, and now Effort looking for some revenge. And Becca, I think I've seen this movie before. This is going to be difficult. True Shot Barrage going to connect through the Eclipse, not quite enough, but with Syndra there, they are able to lock down the Leona.
Unfortunately, also a Liiv Sandbox special is someone getting caught in the side lane.
Yeah.
It's happened before, and I was saying I don't think it necessarily has to happen here today because, you know, Liiv Sandbox, everyone is doing well. Oh, God.
Just idiot things, I guess.
The fact that Pyoshik has a CS lead is actually insane to me. I don't get that at all.
Well, I mean, it's just because he hasn't been able to participate too much more, so instead it's been getting around and getting as many camps as he possibly can.
Yeah, but it feels like he hasn't had access to his jungle for the entire game.
Well, maybe he's just farming the lanes. There are some advantages for Liiv Sandbox in the lanes as well.
That's true.
I haven't been keeping my eye on it.
That's not good either. The reality of that statement is, I imagine you'd much rather have your gold go to someone else. Yeah, it's pretty unexcusable to just face check here as Becca without the proper setup from the rest of your team. If you have the rest of your team there, you can still make the argument that it's a risky play, but I kind of get it because you need to do something. So this is a Liiv Sandbox classic, also with the timing out of the Mega Knock, because unironically, I think otherwise he might live there.
Yeah, I mean, they at least managed to follow up and get themselves a 1-for-1, so...
It's not the worst.
Yeah, not the worst deal.
They don't lose an objective, right? It's not terrible, it's just we make fun of it because we've seen this. Yeah.
Fate grabbing himself a kill here. DRX grouping up as 5. And we're looking for Soul Point on the side of Liiv Sandbox. They get it as I say it. And now... Okay, poke on both sides, remember. But you do have to be really careful. This Ezreal is hitting like a truck. Kingen in so much trouble. He'll get stunned. There's the pole. Goodbye, Jace. The trade's going to be there most likely as the Alistar will fall down and the Chaos Storm did do a fair bit of damage. Summit looking for the re-engage as Solar Flare finds a slow onto Fate. Pyoshik goes golden, but now he might be out of position. Has to flash, but does make it to safety. 1-for-1 still, as DRX are looking now to disengage.
And the fights are really going well for Liiv Sandbox here, even with Effort dying there in the very end. Because when push comes to shove, DRX, they don't have the damage. They didn't find the lead in the early that you were kind of looking for. The counter pick's not really coming to fruition. No prior find in bot side. And this leads to a situation where Liiv Sandbox, they can now just go for even fights. The 3-item spike has been hit on Prince, and you can see, even towards more tanky members, how much damage he's able to do. And Liiv Sandbox is getting tankier and tankier. Once they have Soul, none of the poke from DRX is going to matter, which means DRX need to find I don't even know what. I guess it's like either they all funnel into Solka or Pioshik hits a 5-man sleep. That's legitimately the only ways, like the only avenues that I see, and those are not avenues that Liiv Sandbox should ever give you. Meaning that I think we might be looking at a Liiv Sandbox 1-0 here with the leads that they have, the champions that are available to them, just the sheer 100-0 potential as well, with a Prince that is now in pure comfort.
Yeah, he's that's a very happy Ezreal. The 3 items that you were talking about, very, very pleased. Bao as well, he's hit 3, does have a BF sword on top of it, so the Tristana is starting to become a relatively big deal, but I think you might be right. Like, unless they're discoing on a Chaos Storm, it's going to be really difficult for Liiv Sandbox to effectively throw this. That being said, oh god, we can't really cast a curse potential that much.
Oh boy.
Yep, is it happening? Is Summit once again going to get caught out of position? In goes Bao, hops back out with the reset, and he'll be able to grab it. Prince unable to land a couple of those autos as we're looking to try and trade it back towards the top side, but there is a Chaos Storm, not quite being discoed on, however, still existing on the map as DRX looking to make a fool of me.
It's Pioshik and the boys, and the newest single, Discoing on the Chaos Storm, is coming to you hopefully soon.
I'd listen to that. That sounds like a rad track.
I think we all would. I'm glad that it was you who said you would listen to that track. Really appreciate that one. What we see there is a couple of key mistakes from Liiv Sandbox. You see that someone is getting caught and then try to force the cross-map play. Unfortunately for them, Solka is actually quite tanky. He's building towards that. Yeah, this is just not okay. There's no vision there. You are mini now. Summit, come on, buddy. We're expecting better of you. Only reason why Bao survives it, by the way, is because of a combination of heal, flash, and I'm pretty sure I saw a locket as well.
Did he flash a Mystic Shot, and that's why, like, because his health bar disappeared, and then he was K. Very, very strange.
Yeah, it was very close.
I don't think you're necessarily allowed.
But that Summit catches on you. I just want to reiterate that.
Yeah, no, I know.
I take full responsibility for that. Okay, no, I just want to get that out of the way, you know?
No, these are things that I've come to accept many times, much like any sort of Cloud, Drake, of any kind.
In this game, I'm very happy with the Ocean. It means that the stakes for this upcoming teamfight in 1 minute 20 are really, really big. And we do now see that this is how you can still lose at Liiv Sandbox, is just randomly get caught. So what do you do?
I mean, that's how you can lose with anyone.
Oh, well, yeah, but they are more prone to it, I think.
That's very true. That's very true.
I do appreciate you, though, like continuously making sure that my analysis is a little bit deeper.
We got to keep it honest. We got to keep it honest.
Got to keep me sharp.
Yep,
that's fine. But it's the end of the split, you know, and it's the end of my first split, so I can take it. It's fine.
No, exactly. I enjoy it, and I actually enjoy poking a little bit of fun at it too, because it's like, it's not wrong, but it's also one of these things that Liiv Sandbox, they understand. They've made these mistakes in the past.
But they still done it like twice in this game.
And DRX have been the best at capitalizing on mistakes of anyone. This is like, yeah, that's one of those things. Last time we saw these two squads meet, it was a 2-1, and it was in favor of DRX. In fact, there's only one series. It was a best of one. It was in Kesper Cup. It's the only time Liiv Sandbox have beaten this team, I believe, in the last 2 years. It's one of those hurdles they haven't been able to get over, and now Summit looking for an opportunity. Pioshik goes gold. True Shot Barrage a little bit too early as the Bambi just escapes. Gonna be all right for now, but that's a lot of buttons now on cooldown as Liiv Sandbox look to take down their Ocean Soul, and they should be able to just grab this for free. Yeah, plenty of damage right there. Scatter the Weak doesn't land, but who cares? They've got an Ocean Soul on a comp that has some pretty decent poke. Scary stuff.
It's not good. Atlas is what it is for DRX, and even with a possible overcommittal happening there, the main thing is that they just blow a couple of summoners, that they blow a couple of ultimates, and just zone DRX off of the objective, because this is not a Baron, this is a Dragon. Dragon does no health to you at this point whatsoever, and with your Mountain Drake, as well as the two Ocean Drakes that you're already able to pick up, you already have pretty good sustain, right? And you can see that the health bars don't suffer nearly as much as those from DRX. And now DRX is facing against a team, and like you have your poke items. Oh yeah, we have 3 items, Jace, and then you look at the Mountain and Ocean Soul, Mountain Drake Ocean Soul. It's just like, what do you do?
It's absolutely ridiculous. You can see Ezreal now just goes back. I believe that was a full Duskblade that he put together, And so that is a lot of extra mythic stats right there that he's claimed for himself. Croco just seeing whether there's a potential option onto Fate that he can mitigate. And now the Baron should be the focus until this Elder Drake is on the field. Pioshik still ahead in farm, so he's got that going for him. But Summit is just massive, as is Fate. 50 CS in the lead. And more than that for Summit there on the top side. So whether the Udyr is ahead or not is largely irrelevant, because he's done his job. The early game was great from Croco. Also, you can see that Prince having a really good time. Bao is still an option, still a win condition, as there's a headbutt hold from Effort. Doesn't necessarily find enough of his targets. It looks like Kingan's going to go down. Summit finds the backline as well, as the Meganar will get stunned up. Becca now looking for his way out. It's Fate. Wants to be able to lock this one down. Croco is dead already. Bao is at full health. There were some lower health bars on the side of Liiv Sandbox and DRX. It could have been way worse for these guys. Oh! Pioshik just gets completely clobbered by the True Shot Barrage. Prince is massive, and look, he might have had a lower health bar, but he never needs to go in range.
I think Prince was just trying to proc his Ocean Soul there, but instead he goes in and finds an immediate kill coming through there. And that is actually something that might be backbone breaking. Like, that single True Shot Barrage kills the jungler, means that no one from DRX can come in without having to back. And that Baron going over to Liiv Sandbox might be the final nail in the coffin for DRX.
Yep, and the health bars are full again. I think I might have forgotten a little bit too much about the power of the Ocean Soul, because Liiv Sandbox, they got chunked after this. It was a decent effort for DRX. It's unfortunate for Kingan, but he soaked a lot of aggro, and then Summit doesn't find quite as much value as he wanted. Still, Ocean Soul.
Yeah, it's just Ocean Soul, right? But look at Prince's health bar, because that's why I said I think that he was just looking for health. But look at his health bar.
Plus 62, plus 62, plus 62.
That's not okay.
Yeah, that's a lot of health. And now it's a lot of Barons.
What happens there is you see in another world, right, the win condition for DRX is actually that kite back, where they do have to kind of run through the Victor, where the engage in the lockdown from the Gnar is not enough to get on top of Bao and Sorko, can then kite back, just auto, combined with the continuous DPS coming through from the Victor, and then go from there. But unfortunately for them, it's not like, as you said before, Liiv Sandbox, they don't skill poorly either. Sure, they don't have the greatest of teamfight comps, but they have hard engage. Effort has been super diligent in making those plays work, and I think the base is just going to crumble here, Atlas.
Yep, certainly started to, as that's a decent scat of the week. Onto Becker, he gets taken down below half health. Not going to be engaging anytime soon. Eclipse not enough to save this guy. There's just too much damage on Liiv Sandbox. So many poke options, and yeah, Kingan just not able to be the Jace that he wants to be. Here's the reset. 2 inhibitors go down, and we've got a minute and a half on this Elder Drake. DRX in a phenomenal position to be able to lock that one down with the amount of pressure from these super creeps coming in from the lanes.
I assume you mean Liiv Sandbox?
Sorry, yes. I might have mixed up some of the names.
It's understandable, though, because normally this is where DRX shines, this late game scenario where yes, it's messy, yes, they might be at a slight deficit, but they always find an angle, they always find a way to get themselves back into this game, and it has to be Bao and Sorka. There is still a way. If those two make it through a team fight, if Effort can't find the X's, and there is not actually enough damage available, or rather it doesn't land onto these carries for DRX, then it's possible. Even with the gold deficit, this is a 5-item Tristana. Like, Bao has gotten insanely fat just through the farm. The fact that it was 37 minutes in the game.
They actually just completely juked them. All of Liiv Sandbox headed towards the top side. The obvious play was to move towards the Elder. Instead, they decided to come up here and get themselves a free turret. Not going to be able to get the inhibitor off this one just yet. But you can see Summit, he's just taxiing some minions up the mid lane, and they're going to retain all of that extra pressure. There goes the final inhibitor, and there's still 30 seconds on this Elder that's going to be almost impossible for DRX even to get to, as now they get to play around the other lanes that are much closer to the Elder Dragon and rely on super creeps coming from top side as well.
You can't leave your base. It's just not happening. Even if Prinska hits there, he hits 1-2 Mystic shots and he's fine. Again, he's going for the TM at his final item here.
Oh god, okay, Pioshik gonna go golden. Shock Blast lands. This was a different Jace. That would have been actually something that mattered, but unfortunately not quite, as Becca has to flash away as well. So much range, so much poke, so many things just flying towards DRX. Liiv Sandbox now just going to kite back towards the Elder Drake that has just popped up. Now looking to set up a gank brush. There are many different brush options. Okay, that's a decent stopwatch from Kingin. Keeps himself alive for the moment. Flashes out, Croco gets exploded. Bao picks up that kill, but they've traded 1-for-1 for now. Effort now has to limp out of this fight. As you can see, Summit looking for even more. Solka, oh god, every auto attack is so damaging. But Liiv Sandbox, look at these low health bars. Does not matter. Tick, 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 and they're full health again thanks to the Ocean Soul.
And the base is crumbling. They just lost one Nexus turret. If they didn't all go back there, they would have lost two. The triple inhibitor down is one of the most prohibitive things in League of Legends, Atlas. You can't leave your base ever. DRX, they go for a Hail Mary fight, hoping to find an angle. They absolutely do not find anything. They just basically waste time. Sure, you kill Croco. Great, but what does it matter if you don't win the team fight decisively against Ocean Soul triple inhib? It's just gone. This is also the ballsiest play I've seen Fate make in a long time, and I'm loving it. Like, I'm here for this, Fate. Flash over the wall, go in big. It doesn't work out in the end, but you see the value that this Ocean Soul provides to this team. Where Summit, you're not allowed to normally do this as Mininar.
He proc does 2/3 of their health bar.
Yeah, it's not okay.
Oh my goodness, this Ezreal is bonkers. Now he's got his Ravenous Hydra completed.
Oh my god,
It's the first time we've seen the completed new version of 2021 Ezreal. I like it. Prince definitely likes it as well. If you're a DRX fan, you definitely don't like it.
Not having fun.
Yep, now we're pushing in towards the base. Oh god, Bao is so close to getting dragoned. But he does make it back to the fountain for now. This Nexus turret, oh my god, it explodes. Huge pulverize from Effort as well as Kingin died at some point in that fight. Now the Dragon's coming down. Double kill already for the Ezreal as Effort gets saved by a buster shot actually for quite some time. But now Prince is just able to play with his food. That's the Quadra. The Nexus is dead and Liiv Sandbox make a lot of people pretty sad.